How could we enhance the Islamic culture here in America in terms of architecture, clothing, music, art, etc.? It seems as if the Muslim community tends to be quite wary in accepting development in these areas. On the contrary, I would say that the thing that's lacking here is traditional Islamic architecture and clothing and music and art. I've never seen it. The only traditional mosque in America is this one. Everything else is some kind of concrete hangar that looks like it's got bits from a Tehran supermarket and bits from an airline terminal, and you really don't know what narcotic the architect is on. Most of them are very disturbing structures, and the passers-by are quite disturbed by them and quite resentful. Great opportunity for daw'a here is to present the glory of Islamic civilization in the form of a beautiful building. But so clouded and turbulent are our souls that we just pay for any architect, and usually they're pretty secular, who thinks that he can produce a box, put an aluminium dome on it, have windows that are pointed instead of square, and the mosque committee will pay him his 10%. And the result is a major defeat for Islam in terms of dawah. It is quite difficult for educated people to visit those structures and to respect those who go to them. But the Muslim communities, by and large, are completely oblivious to this. Similarly, clothing, it's very unusual to see Muslims, even if they're wearing what they think is sunnah dress in America, to wear something that looks like traditional Islamic clothing. If you look at drawings of how Muslims used to be 100 years ago in Morocco or in Cairo or elsewhere, it's very splendid and beautiful, but nobody dresses like that any longer. We might dress like Najdi Bedouin, perhaps, or we dress like, I don't know, a Pakistani peasant. But what we don't have is the splendor of the traditional vestments of the Islamic world, because in the Muslim countries themselves, those are no longer understood. Similarly, music, the musical songs and the anashid and the things that are popular here, they're not traditional. They come from revivalist circles in Syria and Egypt in the 1950s, and the tonalities are essentially Western. Traditional Islamic anashid and qasa'id, you'll hear them here sometimes, but in most Islamic gatherings in America you won't, and people don't know what the maqams are. They don't know what a traditional Islamic scale sounds like. It's completely foreign to them. So the problem is not that we are conservative and wary in accepting development, but that we've allowed these new developments completely to overwhelm our communities. So that when we go to a traditional mosque or look at a traditional community or hear traditional qasa'id, it's like something very foreign and alien to us. The question of architecture and what exactly should be an indigenous American style of mosque design is a very complex one, and I'm not sure that I have any coherent ideas to share with you. Partly because it's not entirely clear what is the American style of building anyway. In New Mexico, it's very different to what it is in New England, and in Seattle they're doing something else as well, and Florida. The country is a mixture of styles. In New Mexico, obviously, because there is a historic link between the Hispanic traditions and those of Muslim Spain, adobe is an Arabic word after all, there is a way in which you could build in an Andalusian Islamic style in a Hispanic part of America without being too strange. In the Anglo areas, it's very far from clear what one would do. Does one mobilize the Gothic style? If one mobilizes the Gothic style, how to prevent it just looking like some kind of church? Is the Gothic style inseparable from Christianity? Or can we claim the Gothic style for ourselves, because we know that the first master builders of the great cathedrals in England were Arabs who'd been stolen by the Crusaders and were set to work building the abbeys and the cathedrals. Stained glass comes from the Islamic world. The pointed arch came back with the Crusade. So it's our tradition in a sense, but it's been so infused with the spirit and resonances of Christianity that it would be somewhat odd if you used the Gothic style to build a mosque. And many congregations would be very resistant to that. What does one use? Perhaps the Romanesque. The Ottomans did that for the last 50 years or so of their existence. But it's not a sacred style. It's an imperial, confident, rather in-your-face style of building. and generally Romanesque and Palladian churches are not terribly successful as sacred buildings. So what would one use? In America, I would suggest that you look at, say, the tradition of Frank Lloyd Wright, where he is attempting to link the Anglo tradition with the Midwestern indigenous development of the use of wood surfaces, with Native American articulations of space, with a responsiveness to the grandeur of the natural environment, something that generally isn't so necessary in Europe. That might be the way to go. Some of his houses in particular, not his industrial buildings. I'm not sure if he ever did a church, but some of his houses might well provide an inspiration for developing a genuinely Islamic style of American architecture. Wallahu a'lam.